My name's Will and I work remote and I travel, and today I'm reviewing Joshua Tree National Park to see if these are my first impressions. So this here is one of the easier loops and popular loops in the park. It's called Hidden Valley, and it's a bunch of boulders and rocks along this manicured path of rocks and dirt. I think it is pretty solid. Each national park I've been to is so different, and it just speaks to the majestic beauty of the USA and how diverse its nature and landscapes are. I mean, I've never seen another national park with a view like that of these weird cacti tree called Joshua trees, these giant rock formations which are unlike anything I've ever seen. See, usually the mountains and rocks I see, especially on the East Coast, they're more contiguous. They're kind of more uniform, like it's sprouted out of the ground together. But these almost look like individual ovals of rocks that were just kind of dumped on top of each other. Same with that. Like, that doesn't look like it just sprouted out of the ground naturally. It almost looks like individual giant rocks that have been dropped into a pile. So I actually do like reading the, oh, we got some directions here. Okay, it's just a big loop. I really do like reading the diagrams. They'll put little like display pieces. I think there's one up ahead here, because I want to know the science, the history. How did some of these rock formations come to be? Okay, this one's kind of long, so I'm not going to read you the whole thing. And I'm standing in a giant puddle here, but I'll just read it out for you. The Mojave Desert, as we know it, is probably less than 10,000 years old. Before that, pinyon juniper woodlands covered the lower slopes of the present desert ranges and even some of the desert basins. As the climate became more arid, this conifer woodland began to retreat. Now these trees are considered a relict population, confined to higher elevations and areas such as Hidden Valley, where there is enough moisture to support them. Okay, so that's kind of cool. Oh, now look at that. Look at those rock formations there. That is something incredible. All right, up ahead here, we're getting closer and closer to this incredible, I don't even know what to call it, mountain range. I don't know if it's considered a mountain because it's not high enough, but it's this incredible pile of rocks that is just unlike anything you would see in any other state. I haven't seen this in Colorado or Utah or Virginia. They're the type of trees you would expect to see anywhere else, just brown trees, and then the rivers are brown. There's not anything that remarkable. And I've always wanted to travel and experience the world because I knew there's amazing stuff to see, and I'm able to do some of it now while working remote. So I'm getting closer to this thing, and once again, these striations are unlike anything I've seen in Colorado or even Utah. I mean, it's closest to some stuff I've seen in Colorado, especially these bigger boulders here. But in terms of something like that, where it literally looks like individual rocks, but the way it just like striates out into like these rock formations is incredible. I'm going a little bit off the path here, but I just want to show you real quick. The loop is taking us pretty close to that rock formation I was talking about earlier. Let's take a quick look at this thing. It is a monstrosity in a majestic way. I wish you could see it. It looks even closer in person. The camera lens is making things look farther than they are, but it is absolutely insane. The that this type of place exists. On the East Coast, I've seen people go to greater lengths to see something less cool because they have to. I mean, they live in an area where there's not much hiking sites to see. So like in the DMV area, your best bet is typically Virginia, because Maryland's hikes are not that great. And so you get to see some mountains, but nothing like this with this kind of rugged terrain. Also, fun fact, I did not know a thing about Joshua Tree when I first came here. I just knew that it was a national park that was nearby in California, and California has great parks, so let's try it out. So it's like the more you discover, the more you find. All right, I've been hiking up and down these rocks, seeing these beautiful piles of rocks. I don't know what to call them. Mountain ranges, canyons. Piles of rocks seems the most fitting. And I believe this hike is coming to a close, or hopefully. I think I've been walking this loop for 30 minutes at least. This was supposed to be a quick hike, and it's not that I don't want to enjoy it and spend a long time here. It's just that unfortunately I have a very limited amount of time here. Long story short, I had to check out of where I was staying, and because of all the stuff I've accumulated, I think by the time I departed it was like 11 o'clock. So put it another way, yep, looks like the loop's ending, by the way. Put it another way, I got here around 2:30, and the sun is probably going to set around 5:30. The drive and then the wait at the entrance and then the visitor center visit I did to find out what paths were best to walk, that took up time. And I basically took a day off work to do this. But I think it was well worth it. The park actually does not close at all. So you can come in, the paths are closed, but you can come in at the dead of night and stargaze. So I might come back for that. I don't know if I will film it because the lighting will be terrible, but I may come back for stargazing. I hear today's not a good night for it because the full moon just happened. Nonetheless, I think this is it's going to be a great experience. So it is what it is, and I actually have to leave a little bit before sunset because I do have to take this one call at 6 p.m. for my side hustle I'm doing. But other than that, let's get back to my review of this loop. I highly recommend it. I thought it was short, sweet, simple. And if you're looking for a quick, easy taste of Joshua Tree Park, that is a fairly easy hike with no real, there's like a very slight amount of uphill terrain, at least in comparison to other parks I've been to. But everything's pathed very well. There's stepping stones, stairs made out of rocks. And I think it was a very great one. It's probably one of the more common paths, so you'll see it and you'll hear about it on the maps and at the visitor center. It's called Hidden Valley. Not so hidden really, but that's what it's called. And yeah, check it out. This one is definitely more rock intensive. Apparently there are some other paths that are just filled with those Joshua trees that you could see all across the plain there. All right, we are on to a different part of this national park. We're at the Barker Dam Trail. I don't think I can do the full loop just because of time, but I did find that I have more time than I thought. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this last trail before I head out. And I think it's gonna be a great one. I think it's probably gonna be a solid choice. I'm told you can't really go wrong here. A lot of the trails here are incredible. The biggest things you'll see here are rock formations or Joshua trees. In this trail, it looks like it's just going to be rocks. Nonetheless, it's going to be pretty cool. I wish I had time to see every major trail here. There seems to be several, but unfortunately, you really just can't do it all unless you're like retired and just have infinite time. Especially if you want to see all the national parks in the US when there's so many. And then this gets into a quantity versus quality question, because I've definitely gone through a few parks, especially in Utah, where I really wish I had more time to explore. Like Bryce National Canyon, I went there twice on 2 different days. I think I took off work one of the days, but that was incredible. Same thing with a few others and the point is, what exactly do you give up on? Do you try and just briefly visit each park to try and cram as many national parks in and just get like a taste of each park? Or do you want to dive deep? And some of y'all are going to be constrained by not being able to take a road trip. So then the answer is determined for you. Let's say you just live near one national park, then maybe your goal might be just to go to that one and explore it to its depths. I would say for me, I do have a bit of more freedom here, and sometimes I think the depth is the better answer, because you got to do it for the right motivations. If you're just trying to hit all the national parks because you think it would impress someone that you did all of them, and it is quite a feat, at least for me, because there's parks in Alaska and Hawaii, and they're all over the place. You really have to do an extensive road trip to be able to hit all of them. But assuming you've done all that, and I think I did meet one person who has, you might be surprised how unimpressed some people are. Some might just be like, oh, that's cool. They may not understand the depth that needs to be done to achieve that, or they just may not care. They may be more impressed with international travel, where, you've gone to Greece or Italy, or they may not just be impressed in general. So if you're doing it just to impress others, as some people do with counting countries they've been to and showing off, I've been to 97 countries, blah, blah, blah. You may be surprised, and you can test this out yourself. Find someone who's been to a lot of countries, watch him or her as they reveal that to a person, and sure, I think some people will be surprised, but point is, some may not, and if you're just doing it for external validation, you may be disappointed. To tie that back to national parks here, this is a beautiful park. So for me, I'd rather explore a country or a park deeply and really enjoy that than rush through everything just to say I've been to 100+ different countries or parks. That's just me. I think it'd be pretty cool to visit every country ever, or get close to it before I die, but is that a necessity? No. Is that something that would be pretty cool? Yeah, but you got to do it for internal motivation, not external. Okay, here's another rock formation. And finally, I see some cacti, which I haven't seen anywhere yet. They're very abundant in Arizona, and then they just disappear again once you're out of Arizona. It's funny. So, last thing I want to talk about is nature. Nature definitely really makes me think. It makes me relaxed again. It de-stresses me. I definitely had anxiety and worry when I traveled a lot. And some of it was needless, looking back. But often I had a toolkit. I worked with a therapist to come up with a toolbox of things I can do to reduce my anxiety while I'm traveling. Because when you're always in a new city or town or foreign place and you know no one, you can get kind of anxious about making friends or just being safe. You can do your research, but sometimes you don't know for sure if a certain area you're staying is the safest place to be or not very safe. But it all worked out, and I remember distinctly when I was in the Outer Banks, I had something come up in work where I got some feedback about things I could be doing better, and that really stressed me out. Even though looking back it shouldn't have, because it was a small thing, it was just some feedback. But at the time, since I was only like a year or so into that job, maybe less, I was scared that, it would be job threatening or whatnot, but it wasn't. It was just feedback for me to improve. But you'll see it, if it's still in my video library. If you go back and you search for the Outer Banks vlog I did, where I was walking through a swamp and then through the tallest sand dunes on the East Coast, which is in the Outer Banks, North Carolina, I touched briefly on it and how what calmed me was the nature there. I was visiting the Outer Banks then when there really wasn't much to do. It was off season. So I went to that swamp park, and then I went to that nature place with the sand dunes. And the nature just calmed me, because I was just like, oh my gosh, it is so beautiful here with the beaches and the sand dunes. And you get back to it. If you're always in an office or a city place or in a cubicle, you never see nature, you can kind of lose sight. So I can't really fully explain why that is. I guess it's just perhaps just a reminder that, hey, things are going to be fine. Or perhaps it's just so beautiful that it makes me think, wow, what a beautiful world this is. I don't even care what's going on. I don't even care if I lose my job, which I didn't. I was overly worried because the world is so beautiful. And I was worried about, because if I lost my job, I wouldn't be able to travel anymore and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, you try your best, you learn from your mistakes. Maybe you try and get another job that's similar. And if you can't, you just go back to living how you would. It's not the end of the world. It's not as crazy as you think it is. And in fact, what I've learned and been told is nothing is the end of the world. That's the secret. Nothing you ever do is going to wipe you out completely to a point where you can't start over. You can't grow or build from it. Now you may argue, okay, what about if you murdered someone and then you went to jail for life, or I don't know, you paralyze yourself from the neck down. There may be exceptions, but generally speaking, the things I'm worried about are not like that. All right, it is late at night. And it was a little sketchy, but it's fine. I drove deep into Joshua Tree. Not that deep. Probably like, I came in from the north entrance, so it was probably like a 15-minute drive in to the first place where you could stop over on the side of the road. There's less stopovers on the north entrance, so it was just a two-lane road. And I'm out here because, as you see, it's a full moon. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a full moon right there. And I want to go stargazing. According to the visitor center guide, it's a national park that's open 24/7. Cars can drive in. I saw a few driving in and out. And the paths are obviously closed, but it's a great time to stargaze. Now, I don't think I can film much of it because this camera lens is just not suited to low light situations. But I'm hoping to see some stars, and I'm sure I will. I already see a bunch. It's going to be really cool. It's kind of cold outside, so that's going to be a little rough, but it'll be fine. We got a full moon, which apparently dampens your stargazing ability. But nonetheless, we're going to have a good time. And just wanted to share with you, this is what I'm doing. Hopefully this is my last video ever and I get killed out here because I'm alone. But jokes aside, I'm going to go stargazing and then head back to my Airbnb. And that will be my visit to Joshua Tree National Park. Really solid. All right, one last clip. So I went stargazing, came back, and just want to share my experience. Incredible. I was probably only out there for 5 minutes, but it just got so cold that came back in here. Point being, it was an incredible experience. You could see a lot of stars. Probably not as many as if it wasn't a full moon. I've certainly seen photos online where you get to see a lot more stars, but you could see some here and there. And it was incredible to see the sky lit up with so many variances of small to less small white dots of different brightnesses all across the sky. May not seem like a big deal to y'all, but for me it is. I mean, I grew up in a neighborhood and area that was fairly light polluted. So I even remember getting a assignment in elementary school where every night or every week or something, we had to go out, find the moon and identify where it is in its cycle. And I couldn't do it because I literally couldn't convince my parents to drive somewhere because they didn't think there was anywhere you could drive that wasn't light polluted. So I felt guilty, I felt upset, and I ended up having to oftentimes disappoint my teacher by turning in incomplete homeworks with her not realizing the situation. And I got docked points for it. So just to be able to see the stars in the sky in this desert area where there's literally mountain range. I can see the rocks from the mountain ranges around me. It's kind of like I'm back in Utah. And to see all that up in the sky is incredible. That's something not all of us have access to. But more so, it really got me thinking about life and life's beauty, and not to get spiritual or religious too much, but what it all means. I mean, I think obviously the Native Americans and other groups of people who lived a less advanced lifestyle probably saw these stars every day, and maybe they took them for granted, or they just didn't know what it was, so they just assumed it was, certain things. They made up stories about it. And they just kind of, because they saw it every day, it just kind of became something that they took for granted, or kind of lost its luster, you could say. But I think it still amazes me, especially knowing that those are star systems out there now, and how vast the universe is. And the fact that we are reminded of that every night, for those of us fortunate enough to be able to see this every night, it's just incredible. Unfortunately, there's probably all these incredible mysteries of other civilizations, other people living out there in those star systems that we'll never know about, at least not in our lifetimes. Maybe it is kind of like Doctor Who in the Doctor Who universe out there. But not to get too much into a rant or ramble, I just wanted to share with you that was a really cool experience. I'm basically warming up to go out one more time. It's really cold out there. It's probably 30 degrees or less. And I'll probably muster my courage for 5 more minutes for a little bit more stargazing, take in that aura, and then head home. Incredible. Joshua National Park, how would I rate it? Pretty solid, pretty good. If I had more time, I would return here, and I may just return here one day and just explore it more. Is it the best national park ever? No. Is it the worst? Definitely not. I would say it's definitely up there. I think you could get a similar experience stargazing and exploring in southern Utah, whether at national parks or just the public canyons, which are almost just as good as the national parks. But this was the first time I've done it at night, and so many things that you don't know until later. Like, I had opportunities to stargaze back then, but I just didn't realize how cool it could have been. I just felt like, oh, that's like, you don't go out at night. So point is, really cool. And it's just so cold out there. And, I know I'll get bored of it quickly anyway. So I don't think I will stay out too long, but I'll give it another 5 minutes. And thanks for watching.